Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Viewers, welcome to a special edition of Defense and Diplomacy. I'm your host, Sultan M. Hali. The process of German reunification started in 1990 when the German Democratic Republic and the Federal Republic of Germany joined together. That was also the day when the Wall of Berlin was brought down and Berlin became an open city. The process by the Germans is referred to as Die Wende, in other words, the turning point. The day is commemorated on the 3rd of October every year, and on the eve of this auspicious day, we are honored to join Dr. Michael Koch, the ambassador of Germany to Islamabad since August 2008. Welcome, Your Excellency. I noticed that prior to taking up the mantle of the German ambassador to Islamabad, you had the honor to serve as the deputy head of the German mission in Rangoon. You also headed the political section in New Delhi, and then you headed the Special Task Force Afghanistan at the Foreign Office in Berlin. I suppose these rich experiences must have prepared you for the challenges you faced in Islamabad.
Well, one hopes so, but whether they do is really for others to judge. But you're certainly right that I've grown a deep attachment to this region of South Asia, to its peoples, to the wonderful hospitality that I've enjoyed, particularly here in Pakistan. And in that sense, this assignment fits in very nicely with what I did before.
But what about the challenges you face? Because Islamabad, and in fact the region, is passing through a major turmoil.
Yes, these challenges are manifold, they're complicated. It's complicated to understand them, it's complicated to explain them to those from outside the region. And of course that's a job of primary importance for an ambassador to explain to his government what is going on. I think particularly for that kind of task, it is very helpful indeed if one has had the opportunity to view things from different angles and appreciate the experiences, the historical backgrounds that the various participants take. So yes, I think that is indeed very, very helpful.
Your Excellency, I noticed that you personally have also contributed quite a lot to enhancing the bilateral relations between Germany and Pakistan. In fact, these range from the areas of energy, economy, education, defense, infrastructure. Now, what do you have to comment on the trade investment treaty which has been signed between Germany and Pakistan in 2009 December?
Yes. First of all, let me say it is my firm belief that in all these areas and others of our bilateral relationship, while a lot has been achieved since we opened diplomatic relations, much more is possible. And I think this is particularly true in the commercial field. We have a bilateral trade volume, if you add both sides together, of roughly $2 billion US, which is, I think, way beyond the potential that is there in both directions. The investment treaty that you refer to is meant to help in another area of our commercial relationship, which I think also would benefit by a significant expansion, and that is foreign investments, German investments here in Pakistan. We have a great number of German firms that have been active here, some for decades and decades. But in that area too, more is possible. One way that we try to support this process is by negotiating bilateral investment treaties. Their purpose is to give a potential investor the certainty that his investment is safe, that it is covered by the law, that it is protected by certain legal rules that are applied, and that give him the assurance that he can do his work and operate a hopefully profitable business. This was the intention behind this treaty.
But it's been nearly 2 years since it was signed, and you see progress in this particular field?
Well, you know, in government things always, unfortunately, take their time. You're right, it was signed in December 2009 when Prime Minister Gilani, Prime Minister of Pakistan, was in Germany, a very important event. The treaty then had to be ratified by both countries. That has since happened. And now we are waiting and seeing what we can do to make full use of its potential. And let me make one point that maybe is of interest. This is a non-discriminatory treaty. In other words, it works both ways. It protects in the same way Pakistani investment in Germany, which is in many ways just as desirable. So let's see, we are at the very beginning of this process. We're actively engaged in addressing the German business community, pointing out this advantage, and we are hopeful.
There's another aspect, Your Excellency, I wanted to touch upon. The people of Germany, and not just the government, have been very cognizant of the sufferings of the people of Pakistan, especially during the trials and tribulations due to various calamities. And I'm referring to the earthquake which took place in 2005, yes. That was perhaps before your time. Yes. But then the massive deluge last year, the floods in Sindh this year, and both the government and the people of Germany have extended their help. How do you see this?
Well, this is something that, frankly, we are a little bit proud of. If you look at the German reaction to the floods of last year, floods of truly biblical proportions that were presented, shown to the German public, to European publics through television. There were two reactions. There was the reaction of the federal government that made available significant amounts of humanitarian support, altogether 36 million euro. But in my mind, much more impressive is the fact that from the German public, over 200 million euro were collected. This is the German public, meaning school children, companies, yes, also overseas Pakistanis living in Germany that explain to their neighbors the situation in their country of origin. This is the largest amount ever collected for such an emergency, with the exception of the tsunami of Christmas Day 2005. And I think this shows you, in a truly touching way, how we are all connected with each other, and how a country that is 5,000 kilometers away, Germany, in a situation such as this, says we have to help because these are fellow human beings. And as I said, this is money that is given completely out of everyone's own decision. Nobody imposed anything on people. This is money that people made available simply because they were touched by the pictures they saw on television.
In fact, we were very touched by the charitable thought and the nobility of the ordinary Germans, because government to government you may have excellent contacts, but this was the people of Germany exactly. reaching out to their brothers and sisters in Pakistan.
Exactly.
There's another question which I had in mind. Germany is the 8th largest investor to Pakistan, and it was one of the pioneers in the Friends of Democratic Pakistan, and it had pledged 115 million euros. How much of it has, of this pledge has already been paid up, and what is the progress?
To answer that question, let me perhaps very briefly digress. You have to understand this money that was committed in Tokyo. This is development support. This is not humanitarian support. Mm-hmm. This is development support. And development support is granted as a result of contractual agreements between the donor country and the recipient country. People often have this idea that what happens is that, for example, the Germans decide they want to build a power plant in Pakistan, and then they start doing it, and someday the government of Pakistan finds out there's a power plant. It's not like that. You agree on detailed plannings. You decide how what the donor country proposes fits in with what the recipient government is planning to do anyway. You negotiate these things. And again, governments being what they are, this takes some time. What I can assure you and your listeners and your viewers is that all of this money and more, it was committed for 2009, 2010, has been committed. What I cannot assure you is that all of it has already been used, because a lot of these things are ongoing. In other words, they are now being implemented as parts of various efforts. And in some cases, this may take some years before all of it is completed. But this money has been committed to Pakistan. It goes to Pakistan. And as a matter of fact, according to our reckoning, we have since significantly overstepped this mark of 115 million euros for those 2 years.
So that makes sense. Thanks for the detailed explanation. Your Excellency, we noticed that high-level bilateral visits are a major landmark in the relationship between two countries. And this year alone, we have had two very major visits, one by the Federal Foreign Minister, Dr. Guido Westerwelle, and also that was in January. Then in June, we had Dirk Niebel, the Minister for Economic Cooperation and Development.
That's correct.
What would you like to comment on that?
Yes, you're absolutely right. We've had a very satisfying engagement in terms of high-level visits. High-level visits are essential for moving a relationship ahead. I'm very pleased that my leadership back in Berlin is so committed to developing this relationship. We are working on enhancing this in a number of directions. We're about to suggest the next round of our strategic dialogue as an example. We are certainly ready to have a closer interaction with Pakistan in all areas of cooperation, bilateral cooperation, but also, and this is very important, to coordinate our stances in organizations such as the United Nations, for example. To share views on the great questions that humankind is faced by. In all of these areas, we are looking for more interaction. We want to engage Pakistan and be engaged by Pakistan.
Dr. Koch, you mentioned the strategic dialogue, and this has been an ongoing process. I'm referring to the strategic dialogue between Germany and Pakistan. Yes. What is the progress on that? Because you've been talking on the various issues, which includes economic development as well as the situation on the Afghan front.
I'll give you an example that I think is particularly current. On December 5th of this year, there will be a major Afghanistan conference in Bonn, 10 years after the famous Bonn conference in the autumn of 2001. This conference will be shared by our friends from Afghanistan, but of course Germany, being the host, takes a particular responsibility, feels a particular responsibility for preparing this event, this complicated, complex event and its agenda. And as part of that, we have in numerous ways, for example, now also since your foreign minister is in New York as we speak, been in contact with your leadership and are seeking actively their views to understand better what it is that Pakistan is looking for, to see how we can incorporate this in the overall scheme that we are trying to advance. So this is one example how this strategic dialogue deals with pertinent issues that are real, that have to do with the everyday lives of people in this region, in this country, and in neighboring countries.
But talking of Afghanistan, German forces are also there in Afghanistan as part of the international coalition and the NATO. The American forces have pledged to start leaving Afghanistan. In fact, they have already commenced that process and they are likely to complete by 2014. What is the agenda for the German forces? When are they likely to leave? And how do you connect it with the possibility of peace? Because that is our main concern now.
Yes. Well, of course, this is our concern equally so. In fact, our only concern. What we want to achieve in Afghanistan is a situation where Afghanistan can assume full responsibility for its destiny, can live in peace with itself and its neighborhood. As far as our plans for our contingent is concerned, yes, we have 5,300 German soldiers presently stationed in Afghanistan, and our time plan is exactly the same as that of the Americans. The federal government will decide in the next few months the commencement of this process of withdrawal, which will start in this year of 2011. And yes, we too plan to have all combat forces withdrawn from Afghanistan by 2014. This is a plan that's been agreed on within NATO and with Afghanistan above all. This, Afghanistan, of course, is the be and end all in this. And we think it is then time to hand over responsibility for security to Afghanistan.
In the same connection, Your Excellency, since you favor a dialogue now, and I believe Germany has facilitated the talks to some extent, how do you see the prospect of peace talks with the people in Afghanistan who have been creating trouble so far, but now we are looking forward to peace?
Well, I think that what we have to recognize is that in the situation in Afghanistan, what we need is a stronger political process. Now, the main thing is, and this is something that you always have to say at the first place, this must be a process that is led and conducted by the Afghans. Because for obvious reasons, in the end, the Germans, we can maybe help in some ways, but it has to be the Afghans that are brought together, hopefully into a harmonious, common future. Yes, we believe this is necessary, and we believe this has to be one of several elements if we want to move ahead constructively in Afghanistan.
In the same connection, I've been reading part of your history, and recently I was in the UK where we had a seminar on terrorism. And there was a certain speaker from Germany who told us, or shared with us, that the experience of Germany has been pretty successful in dealing with terrorism, because terrorism, unfortunately, does not know any boundaries, it does not know any religion.
That's very true.
So could you share some of those experiences, because we would like to not only share them with you, I mean share your experiences, but learn from it, because we are at the moment the target of the maximum terrorism.
Yes. Well, that's very true, and it's an important point that you're making, which needs to be really emphasized, because sometimes people everywhere, well, this is not limited to one country, are confused about this. You're absolutely right. We had a major episode of completely homegrown terrorism in Germany in the 70s, going into the 80s, and then the last few incidences in the early 90s. And this, I can remember this well, this period, and the tensions that it created, the questions that were raised. There are a number of things that I think are important. The first thing is you've got to strengthen institutions. The main thing is what stands at the beginning of the American Revolution, if I may refer to that. We want to be a government not of man, but a government of laws. And this has to apply to everyone. And yes, it must be the right of a person to disagree, even disagree violently, with the overall direction that his country is taking. If he wants to change the direction of his country, so be it, then he should use those avenues open to him by the law. But he cannot take a shortcut and decide that this process is too bothersome. And then decide that terrorism is a better way to achieve his ends. So the first thing is strengthen institutions. The second thing is to withstand the temptation to react by making laws, by tightening laws, by limiting human rights, by curtailing basic principles of law. Because that, in a sense, creates, after the fact, a justification for the terrorists. Unfortunately, terrorism is a fact of life. It has touched all countries at some point, here in the region and elsewhere. We've just recently seen the terrible incident in Norway. The good way to react is to unite around a common principle, to stand fast, to allow institutions to do their work, and to proclaim that you will not allow the terrorist to determine your lifestyle and the way you administer or govern your own country.
Right. On a different aspect, The agreement on the protection of reciprocal investment, this was ratified by Germany on the 8th of July this year. Pakistan ratified it last year. What, very briefly, are the salient features of this particular agreement?
Well, the main principle is that you can promote investments best by offering legal guarantees. In a sense, it's an application of the thought I just tried to develop with reference to terrorism. If you want to attract investors, then it helps you. If you can say, if you bring your money here, if you build a company, if you develop a mine, then your investment is protected by the law. And this is enshrined in a treaty concluded between your country and ours. Our experience has been that this is in the long term, not in the short term. In the long term, the most effective way to enhance investments. And let me say something that is quite peculiar. This treaty of 2009 replaced a treaty concluded 50 years earlier in 1959 between Germany and Pakistan. And this treaty of 1959 was the first bilateral investment treaty ever concluded anywhere in the world. So in a sense, Pakistan and Germany have been trailblazers in this. And the idea now was that after 50 years, this treaty needed adjustments. This is what we have done. Now we have to develop its potential and see that the political purpose that we pursue with this treaty, namely more investments in both directions, that this happens.
Viewers, we come to the end of a very fascinating discussion. In fact, how the time passed, I failed to understand, but it was a pleasure to talk to Dr. Michael Koch, who I believe is a genuine friend of Pakistan. He told us, he shared with us his experiences, not only from his mind, but also from his heart. He told us about the bilateral visits that have taken place. He shared with us the bilateral milestones which we have achieved, the various treaties we have signed. But more importantly, he shared with us how Germany has been able to deal with the scourge of homegrown terrorism, a problem which Pakistan is facing, which is not only homegrown, but also imported from abroad, unfortunately. But then he shared with us the plans of the international forces in our neighborhood in Afghanistan, which has been the source of the terrorism in Pakistan, and how the forces, international forces, are planning to exit Afghanistan and give a chance to the people of Afghanistan to bring about an Afghan-led peace. I would like to thank you, Your Excellency, Dr. Michael Koch. It was a pleasure talking to you. And heartiest congratulations on your Unity Day.